My wife came home from girls' night, bragging about a rich new man. I replied, "Sounds great." Then I found out the new man was a married politician and tipped off a gossip columnist. She was left frantically panicking after her photo appeared in a tabloid. I, 34 male, am a freelance web developer. I work from home. My life is quiet, ordered. I like it that way. My wife, Jean, 32, is an event planner. Her life is not quiet. It's a whirlwind of galas, fundraisers, and what she calls essential networking, which mostly seems to involve expensive cocktails and gushing over people with more money than taste. We've been married for 7 years. The first 4 were good. The last 3 have felt like a slow, painful separation of orbits. I'm the stable planet, and she's a comet, swinging by occasionally to refuel before heading back out into the glittering void. Last Tuesday, she came home well after midnight. I was in the living room, debugging some code, nursing a lukewarm tea. The front door clicked open, and she practically danced in, buzzing with an energy I hadn't seen directed at me in years. She was wearing a new dress, a slinky emerald green thing that must have cost a fortune. "Oh my God, Ethan, you are not going to believe the night I had," she said, dropping a ridiculously small, ridiculously expensive handbag on the counter. I took a sip of my tea. Did the caterer finally use the right shade of napkins? She waved a dismissive hand, a gesture I'd come to know well. It meant my world was too small for her news. "Please, I met someone. Not just someone, the someone." My fingers paused on my keyboard. "Okay. He's incredible, charming, powerful. He's in finance or something important like that. We were at this private reception after the main event, and he just walked right up to me. We talked for hours. He didn't even look at anyone else." I looked at her, really looked at her. Her eyes were sparkling. Her cheeks were flushed. It wasn't just the 2 glasses of overpriced Chardonnay she'd probably had. This was different. This was triumphant. "He told me I was wasted," she continued, her voice breathy. "That my talent, my vision, it's meant for a bigger stage. He thinks I could be managing international events. He wants to introduce me to people." A cold, heavy stone settled in my gut. I'd been a supportive husband. I built her first website for free, helped her with her business plan, and talked her down from countless late-night panics. All of that was apparently just keeping her on a small stage. I leaned back in my chair, forcing a neutral expression. "Sounds great, Jean," she beamed, completely missing the dead flat tone of my voice. "It is. It's more than great. It's a possibility, a real one." She then launched into a detailed description of his suit, custom-tailored, she was sure. The way he held his glass, the deep timbre of his voice. She never mentioned his name. I never asked. I just nodded along, making non-committal sounds. "Wow, that's amazing. Good for you." Inside, something in me didn't break. It just clicked off, like a circuit breaker tripping. The low hum of anxiety and resentment I'd been living with for years went silent, and in its place, there was a profound and unsettling calm. The next morning, while cleaning up, I found a receipt she'd left on the kitchen island. It was from a very chic, very expensive hotel bar a few blocks from the gala she'd attended. The tab was for 2 people and paid for by a card under the name Arthur Finch. I'm a web developer. Information is my trade. It took me less than 10 seconds of searching to find him. Arthur Finch was not in finance. He was a politician. A rising star in the Conservative Party, to be exact. A man whose entire public platform was built on family values and the sanctity of marriage. The search results were full of glossy photos of him and his wife, Alice, a woman from old money, looking wholesome and devoted at various charity functions. They had 2 young children. I stared at the screen for a long time, at his smiling, handsome face, at his beautiful, unsuspecting wife, at the articles praising his moral clarity. My wife wasn't just having an affair. She was having an affair with a hypocrite of the highest order, a man who staked his career on a lie she was now eagerly participating in. And she'd come home and bragged about it to my face, framing it as a career opportunity. The sheer, unadulterated entitlement of it all was breathtaking. I didn't yell. I didn't throw things. I opened a new browser tab. I knew a guy from college who worked for a popular, if somewhat sleazy, online gossip publication. We weren't friends, but we were connected on a professional networking site. I found the site's anonymous tip line. I wrote a short, simple, and entirely truthful message. Subject: Arthur Finch. Citing body. Saw rising political star Arthur Finch getting very cozy with a woman who was not his wife on the evening of June 10th at the Gilded Glass Hotel bar. They were there from approximately 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Her name is Jean. She's an event planner. Here is a link to her public professional Instagram page. I attached the link. Her page was full of pictures from the events she planned, including several from that night. She wasn't hard to identify. Then I hit send. I closed the laptop. The house was silent again. I made a fresh cup of tea. I don't know what will happen. Maybe nothing. These people have teams to quash this kind of thing. But I've learned from Jean that you have to create your own possibilities. You have to network. So I did. I sent a message to the right person. Now I wait, and I watch the stage she was so desperate to be on. Update 1. It's been a week of profound Arctic silence. The gossip site story dropped on Friday. It was a small, suggestive piece, just enough to light a fuse. Jean's panicked reaction was exactly what I expected. Denial, then accusation, then demands for me to fix it. When I refused, telling her, "This is your mess, Jean," the look on her face was one of pure, uncomprehending shock. The idea that I wouldn't leap to her rescue was alien. The atmosphere in the house has been unbearable. She alternates between ignoring me completely and having furious, whispered phone calls in the guest room. I can tell from the one-sided conversations that Arthur has cut her loose. The bigger stage is already a bust. She tried tears, telling me I was being cruel. I just told her that I was going to speak to a lawyer. That stopped the crying instantly. The battle lines have been drawn. Update 2. I had my consultation with a divorce attorney this week. Her name is Miss Anne. She's sharp, no nonsense, and didn't flinch when I laid out the whole story. She also gave me a harsh dose of reality. "Your anonymous tip was a bold move, Mr. Evans," she said, her fingers steepled. "But don't mistake a gossip column for a legal victory. A contested divorce is a marathon, not a sprint. It's going to be expensive, it's going to be ugly, and your wife will likely try to paint you as the villain. Be prepared." She was right. 2 days ago I was served. Jean has hired a lawyer, a man named Mr. Gerald, from a notoriously aggressive family law firm. The initial letter was full of boilerplate about an irretrievable breakdown of the marriage. The real war has begun, and it's a war of paper and money. Miss Anne's retainer fee made my stomach clench. This isn't a simple, clean break. This is going to cost me. Jean is still living in the house, and it's hell. We are ghosts in the same space. The air is thick with her resentment. She started leaving passive-aggressive notes. One on the counter this morning read, "Some of us are trying to deal with the fallout of a sabotaged career. Must be nice to just sit at your computer all day." I'm documenting everything on Miss Anne's advice. Every note, every hostile text. I'm already exhausted, and we've barely even started. Update 3. 3 months. 90 days of cold silence, mounting legal bills, and a slow, grinding war of attrition. Miss Anne was right, this is a marathon from hell. The discovery phase is underway. Mr. Gerald, Jean's lawyer, is playing hardball. He's trying to bury me in paperwork, demanding years of my freelance business records, trying to argue that I've hidden assets. It's a classic intimidation tactic designed to make me bleed money and energy. The biggest bombshell dropped last month. Mr. Gerald filed an official claim on Jean's behalf. It's a work of pure fiction. It alleges a pattern of emotional abuse and controlling behavior from me. It claims I was systematically isolating her and sabotaging her professional ambitions. And the punchline, she is demanding sole possession of the house my pre-marriage savings paid the down payment on, and significant spousal support due to the devastating emotional distress and career damage she has suffered. Reading that document was an out-of-body experience. It was my life, twisted into a grotesque parody. When I showed it to Miss Anne, she just nodded grimly. "I expected this," she said. "Now we fight back." On her advice, I began methodically gathering financial evidence. For years, I've been the one to collect the mail. I started opening her credit card statements and bank statements that came to our shared address. It felt like a violation, but Miss Anne assured me that documenting marital lifestyle and expenditures was standard procedure. The statements painted a clear picture. Thousands of dollars spent on clothes, dinners, and hotel bars she never told me about. It was a secret life, funded by our shared finances. But the real turning point came from the escalating tension in the house. Jean has become more brazen, more hostile. Last week, I came downstairs to find her yelling at someone on the phone. He thinks he can just sit there in his little office while my life burns down, she shouted. He has no idea what's coming for him. Her open hostility was making me genuinely uneasy. I felt like a prisoner in my own home. That night, after she'd gone out, I did something I never thought I'd do. I bought a small, high-quality security camera. I didn't hide it in a smoke detector. I placed it on the bookshelf in the living room, partially obscured by a photo frame. It was a common area. I told myself it was for my own protection, to have a record if she ever escalated from verbal hostility to something else. I checked the laws in my state. One-party consent for recording audio. It was a desperate, defensive move. I felt sick doing it. This wasn't a clever gambit. This was the pathetic, ugly reality of my marriage's end. Update 4. The camera sat on that shelf for 5 weeks, recording nothing but silence and the mundane movements of two people avoiding each other. I almost took it down. And then, one rainy Saturday afternoon, I hit the jackpot. Jean was on a long video call with her best friend, Doris. They thought they were alone in the house. I was in my office, headphones on, but the camera was rolling. I reviewed the footage later that night. My hands were shaking. Jean, swirling a glass of wine, was venting. "Mr. Gerald says we just have to stick to the script," she said, her voice dripping with venom. "I'm the victim. Ethan is the jealous, controlling monster who couldn't handle my success. It's perfect. The judge will see a poor, broken woman and a man who drove her to it." Doris asked, "But what about, Arthur?" Jean laughed, a cold, ugly sound. "Arthur was a mistake, but he's the key. Mr. Murray, Gerald says we frame the whole thing as a cry for help. A moment of weakness from a woman desperate to escape an abusive marriage. Honestly, who's the court going to believe? Me, or the quiet, creepy guy who probably leaked the story himself?" She took a long sip of wine. "If I play this right, I get the house, I get his money, and I get to start over. He'll be paying for my emotional distress for years. It's the only way I'm going to get through this." I had it. Not a full confession of the affair, but something better. A clear, undeniable statement of her intent to commit perjury and defraud the court by feigning an abuse narrative to win assets in the divorce. I sent the video file to Miss Anne with a one-sentence email. "I think this might be useful." There was no dramatic courtroom showdown. That's not how it works. Miss Anne simply had the relevant 90-second portion of the video transcribed. She attached the transcript to a formal settlement offer and sent it to Mr. Gerald. The letter was polite, professional, and utterly devastating. It stated that if Miss Evans's claim of emotional abuse was not immediately and permanently withdrawn, we would be submitting the transcript and the accompanying video file as rebuttal evidence and filing a motion to have her sanctioned for making a fraudulent claim. A week of silence followed. I was a wreck, imagining all the ways Mr. Gerald could spin this. Then Miss Anne called. "Mr. Gerald would like to discuss the settlement," she said, a hint of steel in her voice. "His client's position has become significantly more flexible." The negotiation was tense and conducted entirely through the lawyers. Mr. Gerald tried to bluff, calling my evidence a desperate, illegal recording. Miss Anne coolly replied that it was legally obtained in a common area for security purposes and would be admissible to rebut his client's specific defamatory and now provably false allegations. He had no counter. His client had been caught red-handed planning to lie under oath. The final deal was brutal. Jean had no choice but to accept. She had to withdraw all claims of abuse. She would receive no alimony. She would make no claim on the house or my business assets. She had 30 days to vacate the property. My hard-won, nerve-shredding victory. Final update. It's been a full year since I sent that fateful anonymous tip. It's been 6 months since Jean walked out of the house for the last time, not with a dramatic flair, but with the quiet, defeated energy of a gambler who has lost everything on a single bad bet. The divorce was finalized. Selling the house took longer than I expected, but it's done. The entire chapter is legally and financially closed. The fight was longer, uglier, and cost me more in legal fees and sleepless nights than I ever could have imagined. It wasn't a clean, satisfying checkmate. It was a muddy, bloody war of attrition that I barely won. Arthur Finch's political career is over. He and his wife went through a scorched earth divorce that was briefly the talk of the town. He's a footnote now. Jean, from what I've heard through mutual acquaintances, had a complete breakdown after the settlement. She had to move back in with her parents for a while. The last I heard, she was working an administrative job at a dental office and living in a small apartment. Her ambitions, her bigger stage, all of it evaporated. She wasn't destroyed by a villain, she was simply left with nothing but the consequences of her own choices. And me? I moved into a new apartment that I love. It's smaller than the house, but it's peaceful. The quiet isn't tense anymore. It's just quiet. I'm still in therapy, working through the anger and the bitterness. I don't celebrate what I did. The camera still feels like a sad, necessary evil. It wasn't a moment of heroic genius, it was a last resort. I don't feel like a hero. I feel like a survivor. The revenge wasn't the goal. The goal was to not be erased, to not be bankrupted by lies. The victory doesn't feel triumphant. It feels like silence after a very long, very loud storm. And for a common man like me, that's more than enough.